I can't believe I let you talk me into this, Violet Daniels muttered, adjusting her dress for the fifth time as she and her roommate approached the trendy rooftop restaurant. The downtown skyline gleamed behind the glass barriers, and the sound of laughter and clinking glasses floated toward them on the summer breeze. "Come on, Vi. You've been buried in work for months," Emma replied, linking her arm through Violet's. "Besides, I promised Samantha I'd bring my fabulous friend. It's just brunch." "Just brunch with a dozen people I don't know," Violet said, smoothing down her copper-colored curls that refused to behave in the humidity. As a pediatric occupational therapist, she spent her days in practical clothes helping children overcome physical challenges. Dressing up for social events had become foreign territory. "Trust me, Samantha's brunches are legendary. Great food, mimosas, and who knows. Maybe you'll hit it off with someone," Emma winked. "The last thing I need is another dating disaster," Violet said, thinking of her last relationship that had ended 6 months ago when her boyfriend decided his career in Seattle was more important than their 2-year relationship. They were ushered to a long table on the rooftop patio where several people were already seated. Samantha, Emma's colleague from the hospital where they both worked as nurses, waved enthusiastically. "Emma, Violet, you made it," Samantha called, standing to embrace them. "Everyone, this is Emma and her roommate Violet." A chorus of hellos greeted them as Emma and Violet took their seats. Violet ended up between Emma and an empty chair. "We're still waiting on one more," Samantha explained. "My friends plus one." The waiter came by with mimosas, and Violet gratefully accepted one, taking a larger sip than she intended. The conversation flowed around her hospital gossip, travel plans, and the latest binge-worthy shows. She was beginning to relax, even contributing to the conversation when a new voice joined the group. "Sorry I'm late. Construction downtown is a nightmare." Violet looked up and nearly choked on her mimosa. Standing at the head of the table was possibly the most attractive man she'd ever seen in real life. Tall with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends, a strong jaw dusted with 5 o'clock shadow, and eyes so intensely blue they seemed to catch the color of the sky. "Everyone, this is Adam," Samantha said. "Adam, this is everyone." Adam smiled, and Violet felt her chest tighten. There was something magnetic about him, confidence without arrogance, warmth without fakeness. "The only seat left is there, next to Violet," Samantha pointed. "Of course it is," Violet thought, feeling suddenly self-conscious as Adam made his way around the table. He extended his hand to her. "Adam Keller," he said. "Violet Daniels," she replied, hoping her hand wasn't sweaty as she shook his. "Nice to meet you." "Likewise," he said, taking the seat beside her. He smelled amazing, something woodsy and expensive that made her want to lean closer. "So, Adam, how do you know our host?" Violet asked, reaching for her water glass to have something to do with her hands. "Samantha's husband and I go way back." "College roommates," he replied, "though we don't see each other as much these days, different schedules." "What do you do?" Violet asked, genuinely curious. "I restore historic buildings," he said. "It's a bit specialized, but I love it. What about you?" "I'm a pediatric occupational therapist," Violet answered. "I work with kids who have physical challenges or developmental delays." Adam's expression softened. "That sounds incredibly rewarding." "It is," Violet nodded. "Every small victory is meaningful the first time a child holds a crayon correctly or manages to tie their shoes." Their conversation flowed effortlessly from there. Adam asked thoughtful questions about her work, and she found herself sharing stories she normally kept to herself. In turn, he described his passion for preserving architectural history, the challenges of balancing modern amenities with historical integrity. "My current project is the Westfield Hotel downtown," he explained. "It was built in 1922 and has some of the most beautiful Art Deco details you've ever seen. I walk past that building every day on my way to work," Violet said, surprised. "I've been wondering what was happening with it." We're turning it into mixed-use retail on the bottom, apartments above, but keeping all the historical elements intact," Adam said, his eyes lighting up as he described the ornate ceiling medallions and original tile work. Violet found herself charmed not just by his looks but by his passion. There was something refreshing about a man who could speak so enthusiastically about his work without it feeling like a rehearsed pitch. The brunch stretched on for hours, the conversation around the table lively, but Violet barely noticed anyone else. She and Adam had created their own bubble, discussing everything from favorite books to travel disasters to childhood pets. "I can't believe it's almost 3, Emma interrupted, touching Violet's arm. "We should probably head out. I have that dinner thing tonight." Violet blinked, surprised by how quickly time had passed. "Right, of course." As the group began to disperse, Adam turned to her. "I've really enjoyed talking with you, Violet. Would it be okay if I called you sometime?" Violet felt a flutter in her chest. "I'd like that." They exchanged numbers, and Violet couldn't help the smile that spread across her face as she and Emma walked toward the elevator. "Well, someone hit it off with Adam," Emma teased once they were alone. "He's nice," Violet said, trying to sound casual. "Nice." "The man couldn't take his eyes off you," Emma laughed, "and he's gorgeous." "There is that," Violet admitted, her cheeks warming. "You know he's loaded, right?" Emma said as they stepped into the elevator. Violet frowned. "What do you mean, Adam Keller, the restoration guy?" "Violet, he doesn't just restore buildings, he owns Keller Historic Preservation. They're one of the biggest architectural restoration firms in the country." Violet's mouth fell open. "He's rich, millionaire rich," Emma confirmed. "Samantha mentioned it when she told me about the guest list." "Self-made too. Started with one building about 10 years ago and built an empire." Violet thought back to their conversation. Adam had been so down to earth, so genuinely interested in her work. There had been no hint of showing off, no designer name dropping or status symbols. "He didn't seem like a millionaire," Violet mused. "The good ones never do," Emma replied with a knowing smile. That evening, Violet's phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Is it too soon to ask if you're free for dinner this week?" Violet stared at the screen, a smile playing at her lips. She typed back, "Not too soon at all." "When were you thinking?" His reply came immediately. "Wednesday, 7 p.m. I know a great place with the best view of the city." "Wednesday works perfectly," she responded, already mentally going through her closet for something to wear. On Wednesday evening, Violet stood in front of her bathroom mirror, applying a final touch of lip gloss. She'd chosen a simple emerald green dress that brought out the flecks of gold in her hazel eyes, paired with gold earrings that had been her grandmother's. "You look amazing," Emma said, leaning against the doorframe. "Where's he taking you?" "He said it was a surprise, just that the view is spectacular," Violet replied, trying to calm the butterflies in her stomach. She hadn't been this nervous for a date in years. The doorbell rang and Emma grinned. Showtime. Adam stood in the doorway looking even more handsome than Violet remembered, dressed in dark jeans and a navy button-down that emphasized his broad shoulders. He smiled when he saw her, his eyes warm with appreciation. "You look beautiful," he said. "Thank you," Violet replied, feeling suddenly shy. "You clean up pretty well yourself," he chuckled. "Ready for an adventure." Instead of heading toward the restaurant district as Violet expected, Adam drove them toward the river that bisected the city. They pulled up to a marina where sleek boats bobbed in their slips. "I hope you don't mind boats," Adam said, looking slightly nervous for the first time. "I thought we could have dinner on the water." "I love boats," Violet assured him, genuinely delighted by the unexpected turn. Adam led her to a beautiful wooden vintage yacht, its polished mahogany gleaming in the early evening light. "This is yours?" Violet asked, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. "It's a restoration project," Adam explained, offering his hand to help her aboard. "The previous owner was going to scrap her, but I couldn't let that happen. She's a 1935 Elco. I've been working on her for about 2 years now." The interior was stunning, all warm wood and vintage details, with modern amenities seamlessly integrated. A small table had been set up on the back deck, complete with candles and fresh flowers. "Did you do all this?" Violet asked, gesturing to the romantic setup. "I had help with the food," Adam admitted with a smile, "but the rest was all me. I wanted to impress you." "Consider me impressed," Violet said, a warm feeling spreading through her chest. Over a dinner of perfectly grilled salmon and roasted vegetables, they picked up their conversation as if there had been no break since Sunday. Violet found herself telling Adam about her childhood growing up with a single mother who worked 2 jobs to make ends meet, her struggle to pay for college, and her satisfaction in finally being able to help children overcome their challenges. Adam, in turn, shared how he'd started with nothing, working construction jobs while putting himself through architecture school. His first restoration had been a dilapidated Victorian house he'd purchased with every cent of his savings. He'd lived in it while restoring it, selling it for enough profit to buy 2 more properties. "It snowballed from there," he explained. "I found investors who believed in preserving these old buildings rather than tearing them down. Now we have projects in 6 cities." "It's amazing what you've built," Violet said sincerely. Adam shrugged, looking almost embarrassed. "I've been lucky. But the money isn't the point. It's about saving these pieces of history, giving them new life." As the sun set, Adam started the engine and took them on a cruise along the river. The city's skyline lit up around them, and Violet couldn't remember ever feeling so content. "There's the Westfield," Adam pointed out as they passed downtown. Scaffolding surrounded the grand old building, but even in its partially renovated state, its elegant lines were visible. "In another month, the exterior work will be complete. I'd love to see it up close sometime," Violet said, genuinely interested. "Really?" Adam looked pleased. "I could give you a tour this weekend if you'd like." "I'd like that very much," Violet replied. As the night air grew cooler, Adam wrapped a blanket around her shoulders, his arm lingering. When he finally leaned in to kiss her, it felt like the most natural thing in the world. His lips were soft against hers, the kiss gentle but with an undercurrent of something more intense. When they broke apart, Violet felt slightly dizzy, though the water beneath them was calm. "I've been wanting to do that since about 5 minutes after I met you," Adam admitted, his voice low. "I'm glad you waited at least until the first date," Violet teased, though her heart was racing. Over the next few weeks, Violet and Adam fell into a comfortable rhythm. He took her on the promised tour of the Westfield, his enthusiasm contagious as he pointed out original moldings and explained the challenges of modernizing the plumbing without disturbing the historic tile work. Violet introduced him to her favorite hole-in-the-wall restaurants and the small neighborhood park where she liked to read on Sunday mornings. Despite his wealth, Adam remained refreshingly down to earth. He drove a modest SUV that he joked was necessary for hauling unexpected architectural finds, lived in a converted warehouse loft that was comfortable but not ostentatious, and seemed genuinely uncomfortable when attention was drawn to his financial success. One evening, a month into their relationship, they were having dinner at an upscale restaurant when the owner approached their table, fawning over Adam and insisting on sending complimentary champagne. "Mr. Keller, such an honor to have you dining with us again. Your restoration of the Carlton Theater saved our downtown district." When the owner finally left, Adam looked embarrassed. "Sorry about that." "Don't be," Violet said. "You should be proud of your success. It's just—" "I don't want that to be what you see when you look at me," Adam said, his eyes serious. "Some people only see the bank account. Trust me, that's not what I see," Violet assured him, reaching across the table to take his hand. "I see the guy who spent 3 hours helping my neighbor's kid build a treehouse last weekend. The one who knows exactly how I take my coffee and brings it to me in bed on Sunday mornings." Adam's expression softened. "Have I told you lately how incredible you are?" "You could mention it again," Violet teased. As summer turned to fall, their relationship deepened. Violet met Adam's parents, a warm, unpretentious couple who had clearly instilled their son's work ethic and values. Adam became a regular at Sunday dinners with Violet's mother, who approved wholeheartedly of the man who made her daughter smile more than she had in years. There were challenges, of course. Adam's work often required travel, sometimes with little notice. Violet struggled at times with the disparity in their financial situations, insisting on paying her way when they went out, though Adam would have happily treated her to everything. "It's not about the money," she tried to explain one night after a small argument about concert tickets he'd purchased as a surprise. "It's about feeling like an equal partner." Adam had looked at her thoughtfully. "You know what, you're right, I didn't think about how it would make you feel. I just wanted to do something nice." "And I appreciate that," Violet said, "but relationships are about balance." They found their compromise. Adam would plan experiences, Violet would plan others. They took turns paying for everyday outings while special occasions became mutual gifts. 4 months into their relationship, Adam invited Violet to accompany him on a business trip to Chicago. "The company is restoring an old theater there," he explained. "I have meetings for 2 days, but then we could stay the weekend, explore the city." Violet hesitated, mentally calculating the cost of flights and hotels. Adam, sensing her concern, added, "The company covers my travel expenses, including accommodations. You just need to handle your flight." Violet nodded, relieved. "That sounds wonderful." Chicago in October was beautiful, crisp air, trees along Michigan Avenue turning golden. While Adam attended meetings, Violet explored the Art Institute and took an architecture river cruise, appreciating the city's famous buildings with new eyes thanks to everything Adam had taught her. On their 3rd evening, after a day of sightseeing together, Adam suggested dinner at a restaurant on the 95th floor of a skyscraper, offering panoramic views of the city and Lake Michigan. "This is breathtaking," Violet said as they were seated at a window table. The city stretched below them, lights twinkling in the early evening darkness. "Almost as breathtaking as you," Adam replied, his eyes never leaving her face. There was something different about him tonight, a nervous energy she hadn't seen before. He seemed to be having trouble focusing on the menu, and his hand trembled slightly as he reached for his water glass. "Is everything okay?" Violet asked. "You seem distracted." "Just thinking about how lucky I am," Adam said, reaching across the table to take her hand. 4 months ago, I almost skipped that brunch. I had a meeting cancel at the last minute and almost used the time to catch up on work." "I'm glad you didn't," Violet said softly. "Meeting you changed everything, Vi," Adam continued, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "You've brought something into my life I didn't even know was missing. Joy, balance, perspective." Violet felt her heart begin to race. There was an intensity in his gaze that suggested this wasn't just dinner conversation. "I love how passionate you are about your work, how you light up when you talk about the kids you help," Adam continued. "I love how you challenge me when I'm being stubborn, how you insist on carrying your own weight even when I want to give you the world." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Violet's breath caught. "I know it hasn't been that long," Adam said, his voice suddenly uncertain. "And maybe this is crazy, but when you know, and I know I want to spend my life with you, Violet Daniels." He opened the box to reveal a stunning but tasteful emerald ring, the deep green stones surrounded by small diamonds. "This reminded me of the dress you wore on our first date," he explained. "The color of your eyes when you laugh," tears welled in Violet's eyes. "Adam, will you marry me, Vi?" "Make me the luckiest man alive?" "Yes," Violet said without hesitation, her heart so full she thought it might burst. "Yes, absolutely yes." Adam slipped the ring onto her finger, then stood to pull her into his arms, kissing her as applause broke out around them from nearby diners who had witnessed the proposal. "I can't believe this is happening," Violet said, looking down at the ring sparkling on her hand as they sat back down. "Believe it," Adam said, his smile radiant, "though I should probably mention one thing." "What's that?" Violet asked, suddenly nervous. "That trip I have next month to Boston, it's actually to look at properties. I've been thinking about expanding the company's East Coast presence." "Oh," Violet said, trying not to let her disappointment show. Long distance would be challenging, but they could make it work. And, Adam continued, watching her reaction carefully, "I was hoping you might come with me, not just for the trip, but to stay, to build a life there. Together." Violet blinked in surprise. "You want me to move to Boston with you?" "Only if you want to," Adam said quickly. "I know your work is important to you, and I'd never ask you to give that up, but Boston has some of the best pediatric hospitals in the country. Your skills would be in high demand there." Violet considered this. She loved her job, but the idea of a fresh start in a new city with Adam was undeniably appealing. "I'd need to research job opportunities, find someone to take over my current caseload." "Of course," Adam nodded. "We have time to figure it all out. I just want you to know that wherever I go, I want you with me. You're my home now, Violet." Tears pricked at Violet's eyes again. "When you put it that way, how can I say no?" 6 months later, Violet stood in the grand ballroom of the newly restored Westfield Hotel, the very building she had passed every day on her way to her old job. The one Adam had pointed out from his boat on their first date. Tonight, it was hosting its first event since the renovation, their wedding reception. The space was magnificent soaring ceilings with restored gold leaf detailing, original crystal chandeliers now retrofitted with LED lights, Art Deco sconces casting a warm glow over the 150 guests who had gathered to celebrate. "Mrs. Keller," Adam whispered in her ear as they swayed on the dance floor for their first dance. "How does it sound?" "Perfect," Violet replied, resting her head against his chest. "Though I'm keeping Daniels professionally, the kids at the hospital already know me that way." Her transition to Boston had been smoother than she'd anticipated. A prestigious children's hospital had practically hired her on the spot, offering even more specialized work than she'd had before. She and Adam had found a historic brownstone to restore together his expertise, and her eye for color and comfort combining to create a home that was both beautiful and welcoming. "Have I told you how stunning you look tonight?" Adam asked, twirling her gently. Her dress was vintage-inspired, with delicate beadwork that echoed the Art Deco motifs of the ballroom. "You might have mentioned it once or twice," Violet laughed, "but I never tire of hearing it." As the song ended, Emma appeared at Violet's side, champagne in hand. "So, when I dragged you to that brunch, did you ever imagine it would lead to this?" Violet looked around the room at her mother chatting happily with Adam's parents, at their friends laughing and dancing, at the beautiful space that symbolized both Adam's professional passion and the beginning of their story. "Not in my wildest dreams," Violet admitted. "But now I can't imagine any other path." Later that night, as they prepared to leave the reception, Adam pulled Violet aside. "I have one more surprise for you." "Adam, you've given me enough surprises to last a lifetime," Violet protested good-naturedly. "This one's special," he insisted, leading her toward the grand staircase of the hotel. At the landing, he gestured to a small brass plaque newly installed on the wall. Violet leaned closer to read the inscription. "The Violet Ballroom, named in honor of Violet Daniels Keller, whose love restored not just this building but its architect's heart as well." "Adam," Violet whispered, touched beyond words. "Every great building deserves a name that means something," Adam said, his arms encircling her waist. "This one deserved yours." Violet turned in his arms, rising on tiptoes to kiss him. "I love you, Adam Keller. And I love you, Violet Keller, today, tomorrow, and for all the days to come." As they descended the stairs to where their car waited to take them to the airport for their honeymoon, Violet couldn't help but marvel at how completely her life had changed in just under a year. From a chance meeting at a friend's brunch to this moment, married to a man who saw her completely and loved her absolutely. Embarking on an adventure neither of them could have planned, but both now couldn't imagine living without. Sometimes, Violet thought, the most beautiful restorations weren't of buildings at all, but of hearts that had forgotten how to hope for something extraordinary. And in finding each other, she and Adam had built something stronger and more lasting than any structure of brick and stone, a love that would stand the test of time.